I'm over here in ThinkOrSwim today, and I'm downloading some data from the software. A couple months back, I posted a video talking about how to do this, how to pull intraday data from the ThinkOrSwim software. A number of years back, I also did a similar video, but that was just for daily data, daily, weekly, monthly. Over here, though, this is going to be essentially a part 2 to this intraday video, because the intraday data has a unique problem in that because there's so much data we're trying to pull out, we have to do it in batches. The software can't handle pulling years of 5-minute candle, for instance, all at once. So there's a sort of a process that has to be gone through, and that can take a lot of time to do. So I've set out to figure out how do I get this to be as quick and efficient as possible, and so I'm going to go over some of that stuff today. All right, so this is a little quick guide of what we're going to be talking about in the video. So when you go into the ThinkOrSwim software, you'll notice that there are built-in limitations where even if we wanted to do 5 years, 5-minute candle aggregations, the software wouldn't let us, because it only lets us see a certain number of data on every chart. And so I've outlined this here with anything daily and above, so that'd be daily, weekly, monthly. There's no limit. When we get into the intraday, though, anything above an hour, you're going to be able to see a year of data at a time. Anything less than an hour but greater than or equal to 5 minutes, you're going to be able to go back 6 months or 180 days. And then anything under 5 minutes, so this would be the 1-minute chart, you're only going to be able to see 30 days maximum. And we can come here and see that when we come up to the time section here, go to time frame, and we go to try to choose the aggregation period. You can see I've got 3 months selected here. It's only allowing me to do 5 minutes. When you go to 1 month, it adds those 1-minute candles. And if you were to do more than a year, you see that it only allows us to do daily. Now, ideally, we would want to say, okay, well, give me the maximum amount every single cycle. For instance, for 5 minutes, let me download it at 6 months at a time. And you may be able to do that. But in my situation, I've had some struggles where that won't work. It overloads the ThinkOrSwim. So what I've put here is the guaranteed safe thresholds that I've been observing. I'll talk about what determines this safe threshold in a minute. This has all been arrived at through testing. So the 30 minutes, the 1 hour, you can sort of see the trend there. Now what's going on is it has to do with memory. So if you come to Help and go to System here, you can see how much memory it's drawing. Where you set this initially when you log in. From the login screen, you come down to the bottom left, you hit this little gear icon, the memory usage down here. And so there's 2 boxes here. You see there's a little dash right between it. So this first box, what this is telling you is how much memory is it going to request from your computer by default. You can see here, you can tell it how much megabytes to allocate at startup, and this is the total ceiling, the cap. How much megabytes do we want it to cap out at? And so this is dependent on your computer. What you'll notice is when we start doing this, you see right here when we hit Control-Alt-Delete, we pull up our computer here. It's got a bunch of different stuff here, but the memory section is what we're referring to here. You can see with it open, not doing anything, it's cruising at about 55%. But as we demand more memory from it, that's going to go up. The more memory will be demanded when we try to download this data. What you'll see is when we come here and click Show Report, it's going to take some time to show that report. If you come back over here, you'll see this used memory getting higher and higher. What I've noticed is after one run, it could be up to 2 million kilobytes. So really, this is something you can use these to play around with what's best for your computer. Now, I'm at 50%. This is 16 gigabytes. This is sort of an old computer. I know in today's computers, they have 32 gigabytes, 64 gigabytes. Who knows, in 5-10 years from now, maybe even more. So you may be able to handle the highest number possible on that startup screen. And if so, then you may have no problem hitting those maximums. But that's where you would want to go to do it. So as you go to download this, you'll want to have this open. You'll want to watch. If memory gets too high, you'll want to close out and restart, because if the memory gets too high, it could cause your computer to crash. what I've noticed is that you start to have issues with ThinkOrSwim also if it's set too low, because once it hits that cap, then what you're gonna notice here is that it's no longer able to draw memory from the computer, but it still needs memory from the computer. So what'll happen is this CPU will shoot up and it'll be at 100%. Your computer will get laggy. This means that it's not able to do its job because it needs more memory, and you set the cap to where it's not able to get that memory from the computer. So the only solution I've seen in this case is just to close out and allocate more memory. So this here is through testing. This is what you can do if you want to be safe. You can do this, and I haven't run into any issues yet. The settings I've been using for my 16 gigabyte computer, 64 as the beginning and 3072 as the end. The other one I want to talk about, does reinstalling ThinkOrSwim, so uninstalling and reinstalling, does that affect anything? The answer is no. I gave it a try just to see. What I can tell you is that it doesn't affect anything. It's purely memory driven, like I explained. When you uninstall and reinstall, it actually keeps all of the stuff that you've saved to the software. So it doesn't actually even clear out ThinkOrSwim, like your studies, your strategies, your settings that you've created up here, like this right here, those all stay. So if you're thinking about uninstalling and reinstalling, know that those stay. So the next question here is, okay, I can install, a certain amount here on the screen, but how am I able to go back in time? When I do go back in time, it only shows me a certain number. It doesn't allow me to go, like for instance, I've just chosen January 2024. Well, this thing's only going back to December 2024. It's not letting me go back all the way. So the answer is, if we want to go back further than a specific number here, we have to use this on-demand feature. And this on-demand feature is designed to allow people to practice trading on old data. Now, it doesn't really work very well from what I can tell, at least on my computer, and from reading online, a lot of other people have similar issues with it. But it does help us in this download data, because what it's going to do is it's going to allow us to choose a date. So you can think of that without on demand, the software thinks today is the current day, and then it's going to load in a certain number of data into the past, but it's not going to show you like 5 years of data, right? That'd take a lot of memory, and for the purpose of the software, which is trading, people don't need that much data. So what we have to do is we have to come into on demand and set this date. We have to move it back in time. All right, so from on demand, what we can do is come here, we'll choose the earliest date possible. Now, one thing to notice, you see here today we're at the 27th. It only allows us to download the 25th, so it's going to have a couple days delay on the data. So what you can do is, if you want to get up to the minute data, you can go outside of on demand, download whatever you can download on that initial normal section, and then from that date, the earliest date you were able to get, you come over to on demand, and then you download the rest of the data going further back. So I'll go ahead and choose the 25th here just to show you how this is going to work. We'll go to custom here and we'll choose the 24th. That's fine. And then we're downloading, let's say we're going to do 5-minute data. So what I'm going to do is do 90 days. So we'll come here to September. Let's see, what do we choose? 24th. We'll do 1, 2, 3. We want to try to pick a date that's not exactly 90, just to be safe, like 87, 86, just to make sure that, because we don't know how many dates specifically are in between. So we'll choose the 27th, that's fine. So we'll see here, June 27th to September 24th. All right, so the September 24th is that end date. And so we're going to come up here to where it has this time. First thing we're going to do is hit pause so that it's not loading in data. And the second thing is we'll click this here. So we've got the 24th. We want to do it a day, couple days, doesn't matter, but it has to be sometime after that end date. We're going to choose the 25th here. It'll load in. Now, it doesn't have to be exactly 1 day, but you do want to get it as close to that as possible. So we can look here, we'll see, okay, at the beginning, where we'll look is right up here on the sort of top left here where my mouse is. This will show us what date for the current candle based on what we're scrolling over. And this bold white section here will tell us what dates we input into the system. So we want to scroll over the candles and make sure that all of our data here is included in this chart. So we'll scroll all the way to the right here. We'll see, okay, September 24th, and then we'll scroll all the way to the left and hover over those far left ones, and we'll see June 27th. So that means all the data is here. We can go ahead and download it. And what we do now is we click on right-click, show report, and follow the way we did it in the other video. So it's taken me a little bit of time. We've downloaded all of these. You can see it took me about an hour to download. This is 5 minutes for Meta. Now what we'll have to do is go in here and format all of these Excels like we outlined in that other video. Now this can take a little bit of time, so what I've set out to do is figure out how can we automate this to make it a really fast process, and show you here what we came up with. So we're going to be utilizing VBA. In order to utilize that, you have to turn on the developer tool. So you can Google how to turn on VBA. I'm sure there's some videos out there. Once you get that, the first thing we want to do is just hit this record macro button. And what we'll want to do is choose personal macro workbook. Now what this is going to do is it's going to turn on sort of this default workbook where we're going to be able to save macro. What this means, macro meaning basically we do things in Excel and it saves it as a macro, and then we'll be able to click a button and do it automatically. And so that's what macro refers to. Personal macro workbook means these things are saved so that every time we open an Excel file, these sort of scripts that run activities will be saved, and we would be able to do it every time we open up an Excel workbook. But in order to get that to turn on, we have to record a basic macro here. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to click OK here. I'm just going to click on a cell, and then I'll come up here and click Stop Recording, and that will turn on that personal workbook. Next, we'll come to Visual Basics. That'll open up this. Now you see I've already got the code in here, but what you should see on the left side is something that says personal.xlsb. That's where we want to be. You can see it, when we just did that recording, it put this into our personal workbook. I'm going to delete this because we don't need it. But on your screen, it should have recorded it as module 1. So what we just did, you can delete it. And then in this module 1, this is what we want to put. Right? So this is going to be the code here. What this is all of the steps that we outlined in the video with Power Query. We've put them into VBA. So it's going to do that automatically. Now I'm going to add this to the document that I have in my store so that when you purchase it, you'll be able to get all of this code and copy and paste it in. Now it would be nice if we were able to just click one button and have it do everything for us. However, some of the steps, there wasn't a very clear and easy way to do it in VBA. So we've gotten it down to about 4 buttons that take about a minute to do. So I'll go over how to do that here. Before we do that, let me go into how to add a button. So you can see up here at the top, I've got a tab called My Micros, and we've got 3 buttons here, and that's what we just showed, Macro 1, Macro 2, Macro 3. If you come over to the Visual Basics sub, we've called it Macro 1, and this is Macro 2, and this is Macro 3. So once we get those in there, then we have to create buttons. So all we have to do is hit those buttons to run it. In order to do that, once we create the macro, we come down to Options, and we come to Customize Ribbon, and we'll click on, if you don't have a thing that says My Macros, you can click on New Tab, New Group. And then we'll go up here from Choose Commands, we'll choose Macros. This will show a bunch of different macros. You can see the ones I've listed out here. Personal.xlsb, so that means it's in that personal macro workbook. Then Macro 1, Macro 2, Macro 3. So we just add this to that tab up there. We'll save that by clicking OK. And then what we'll be able to do is run that code by just clicking a button. All right, so to go through the process that I put together, what we'll do is we'll first highlight, we're going to highlight 4 columns here, so A to D, and then we'll go all the way to the bottom. What we'll do is hold down Shift, we'll hold down Control, and we'll click down arrow 3, 4, 5, 6, so about 6 times to get us all the way to the bottom there. And then we'll put it into a table, and we can do that by hitting Control and T at the same time. It says, where do you want your table? That's fine. We'll leave that unchecked. We'll say OK. So now that this is a table, we can run our first macro. This will create those Power Query tables. It may take it a minute. You can see the wheel is loading. Once it gives us our icon back, we can go to Data. We'll click Queries and Connections. And you can see over here, both of those tables have been created. What we want to do is we'll want to bring that open table into a file. And so what we'll do is we'll right click, we'll click Load To. We want to load the table. We want to load it to a new worksheet. We'll click OK. So the reason why we had to break up macro 1 from macro 2 and macro 3 is because we have to create those Power Query tables before we do these other operations. Now, why 2 and 3? These could probably be put into 1. However, I broke them out because macro 3 will delete the raw data here. So you can see down here, strategy, reports, meta. It's going to delete that tab. And so I wanted to do as much as I could right before I delete that tab, just to make sure everything's working correctly before I end up deleting that. Another thing the macros do here is they take the open data and they override this entire open column with the close of the prior candle. And so you might be wondering, this is 5-minute data, right? Why would the close of the prior candle not equal the open of the next candle? And in some cases it does, like right here, 712.29, 712.29. But then in other cases it doesn't work, like 712.37, and then the next one is 712.47. So why is that? And the answer is, I don't know. From observing the software when it's running, it may be just that incremental split second between the end of that old candle and the beginning of the new candle. So what I've done here is, in order to avoid missing any action, what we've done is just overridden this open column with the close of the prior column. The other thing you might notice on the lower time frames especially is that sometimes candles will be missing here. So here we go, 7:05, 7:15, right? This is supposed to be incremented into 5-minute candles. However, it's missing that 7:10. Up here, even worse, you can see it goes from 6:25 a.m. to 7 a.m. So the way the ThinkOrSwim software works is if it doesn't detect any volume, then it doesn't record the candle on the chart. In order to avoid having missing rows, what we'll do is when we go to merge all of these Excels into one giant Excel, we'll have some code in there that will add in those missing candles. And what it'll do is for the open and close price on those candles, it'll pull the close of the most recent candle and then the open of the candle that we have after the fact. So for instance here, 6:20 to 6:40, if this was 5-minute data, it's going to add in 6:25, 6:30, and 6:35, and on all 3 of those candles it's going to use 206.83 as the open and 206.83 as the close. All right, so we'll go up here and click on macro 2 and it runs that, and then we'll click macro 3 and it runs that. And you can see the close of the prior matches the open of the next one. So we're looking good here. We can save this. We can keep it as a CSV, that's fine. And we'll close out of it. And we'll do that for all of these here. So I'll sort of show it right now in one smooth motion. All right, and so that just as quick as that, we're able to do about 1 to 2 every minute, and so that drastically speeds up the amount of time that's needed. All right, so I finished formatting all of these Excels. You can see there it took about 15 minutes to format all of those. And now what we'll do is we'll run some Python code to get this into one file. So I've got two different codes here doing two different things. The first thing here is we are going to just simply merge all of this into one without fixing the missing candles right now. So you can see here with the code, we tell it where all of these Excels are located. So I'm going to copy the address here and paste this in. It then goes and grabs all of the CSVs in that folder. It will move it to a data frame. It will take and create a column called datetime. Now, the reason it does this is because when you're dealing with a lot of data, the datetime format in Python is the one that works really fast. So it's created a new datetime column in the datetime type using the date and the time of day. What it'll do is it'll go through and drop duplicates. So this is a safeguard when we go to download all of those Excels. Maybe we have the same day in two different files. So in order to avoid having duplicates, it will simply go through and drop all of the duplicates. It then sorts it so it's in chronological order. It then gets rid of that date time column and prints it to a merged CSV. So all we have to do is add the folder up here. We'll go ahead and save it, Control S, and then we'll run the code. And we'll give it a minute here. What we should see though is a new creation here. It'll be one merged file. What I've been doing next is once that's created, I'll create a new folder and I'll take all of these original Excels and I'll just move them in here. That way we have copies of them. However, if you did not want to keep them, you could go ahead and delete them. And then what I've been doing here is just naming this all sessions gaps. So I've been keeping this. We will go in and change it around to fill in the gaps, but I just keep a copy of this just in case something goes wrong. So once we have that set up, we can grab this file folder address again. We'll come into the second code that I have and we will paste it in up here under folder path. So this is going to be the second Python code we're going to use to fill in the missing candles. We can look here and start at the top. You see a number of different variables. First one, candle size. This is going to be whatever the candles are aggregated by. So if it's 5 minutes, it's going to be 5. Ticker, this is going to be whatever ticker we're using. 24 hours ticker. So this is a variable and you're going to put the tickers in here that currently in ThinkOrSwim are showing activity from 8 p.m. to the 4 a.m. Hours. So the way it used to be was from 4 a.m. to 8 p.m. the market was open, and then from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. It was closed, and so there was no trading activity. My understanding is the markets still function that way technically, but they have allowed these brokers to begin trading from their reserves in the hours of 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. And beginning around November of 2024, the ThinkOrSwim platform began tracking some of those changes. So for some of these tickers, beginning in November 2024, there is price activity in that 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. range. This code has been set up so that if it is one of those tickers, what we're going to do is for all of the data that we download, we're going to show a 24-hour range. But if it's before November 2024, that 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. time range will just be the same number. So it'll end at 8 p.m., whatever number that is, it'll show it through the 9 p.m. hour, 10 p.m., 11 p.m., 12 a.m., 1, 2, all the way to 4, and then when it begins trading at 4 a.m., it'll begin reflecting the changes. If it's not one of those tickers, then it will have no candles between 8 p.m. and 4 a.m. So keep this variable in mind. We'll show a little later on how we're going to decipher between those two types. But just know that if the ticker you're trying to download has activity from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m., you'll want to add that ticker here in this list. The next variable here, folder path, this is going to be where we want the output to save to. File path, this is going to be where are we obtaining the data from. That's going to be all sessions gap in this case. The first activity here, we're reading in all sessions gap, storing it in DF. Second thing, we're creating a date time column like we explained earlier. And third, we're sorting by date time, so it's sorted chronologically. The fourth here, we're creating a range of all of the candles, potential candles that we need. Remember, we're missing some candles. This is creating a range that we're going to use to overlay and get all of the missing candles. Down here in the if statement, if it's 24-hour tickers, this is going to create 24 hours for all of the weekdays. It will exclude weekends though, so Saturday, Sunday won't be included. On the else statement, this is where it will set it up so that it's only showing candles from 4 a.m. to 8 p.m. It also excludes the weekends. And then down here is other miscellaneous code that we use to get the data looking correct. Eventually we get here and we print to all sessions, and it's going to output an all sessions.csv file to the location we put up here. All right, and so we've got that printed here. We can open it up. And just to give a visual of how that looks, you can see on the right side is the one with the gaps. So this is what it looked like here. And then on the left side is the one we've just done. You can see that we've added 625, 630, 635, and it has that 206.83. All right, and so that's all I wanted to show. I will update the intraday instructions here with that code so that you can copy and paste it. Also want to make you aware that I've started a new website, and the goal here is to take this intraday data and make it available for purchase so that you don't have to do all these steps. It's in its infancy right now, but you can also check here for some of those more common popular tickers. The data might be here and save you a lot of time.